Babies don't come with an instruction manual and many new parents feel unprepared. They're excited at the thought of starting a family, yet anxious about how to meet their newborn's many needs, including fears like, will I be able to breastfeed? What if I don't have enough milk? Do I have what it takes to be a parent? Stand by, Go Healthy for Good starts right now. Hello and welcome to Go Healthy for Good. There are many theories on how to nurse a newborn, but today we want to hear what the scientific evidence shows. But first, meet Sharon and Peter as they share their story of business success.
Yeah, the first business we had together was a little takeaway down in Rose Bay. It was a little gourmet takeaway. We started together from scratch with a loan. Sharon's parents put a house up for us to get into that business. So it was very important for us that we succeeded. Otherwise, her parents would have had problems keeping the house.
It was a very affluent area, and takeaways were few and far between and mostly low grade. So it was really, it went off crazy busy.
We couldn't cook fast enough as we sold it.
There were two of us, just the two of us in there starting it, and within a year we had 8 staff and we couldn't keep up. It was successful, but at a cost.
Yeah.
At a cost already. Our relationship was suffering and our health was suffering. We just didn't really recognize it as anything but part of the success.
The film catering truck, of course, was something totally new again. Being stationary in a shop, and now you're being on 4 wheels and going to location to location film shoots, mainly commercial advertising, which was, we thought it was just, the bomb, We did that, as Sharon mentioned, about 12 or more years. And we really loved it. We had a good income. We worked horrendous hours, but sometimes there were not enough hours in the day to get it all done. I remember days where we said, we have to go shopping at Woolies, and thank God they just changed their opening hours to 12 midnight.
You don't recognize success is a trap because it lures you to believe that everything else is successful. You don't picture the other things that are actually being knocked over on the way, which is your health, your lifestyle. What else are you doing for yourself if you're working 20 hours a day and then racing through Woolworths and getting 4 hours sleep, which is of course a no-no. You think that that's the grail. You run for that cup and think, I'm doing this is incredible, how good are we? But at a cost that's all slowly mounting up.
And just how high that cost would be, we'll find out later in the show. We have a lactation consultant with a very holistic way to feed, nurture and handle a newborn baby. Melinda has a delicious savoury recipe. We'll talk about kiwi fruit and the country that gave them the name. And right now, it's the news. In the headlines, no caffeine safe in pregnancy, breast milk carries exercise benefit, and COVID antibodies found in breast milk. A review of data from 42 studies looking at caffeine intake during pregnancy has concluded that no amount of caffeine is safe in pregnancy. 75% of the studies indicated significantly increased caffeine-related risk for 4 main outcomes: miscarriage, stillbirth, low birth weight, and childhood acute leukemia. There was an additional link in several studies to childhood overweight and obesity. The author noted moderate to high levels of consistency across the studies, along with a dose-dependent response, both of which add strength to his conclusions. So if you're pregnant or contemplating pregnancy, take his advice and stay away from caffeine. Pregnant and nursing mothers who engage in moderate exercise increase a compound in their breast milk that may lower their baby's lifelong risk for heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, and obesity. A research group from Ohio State University found increased levels of the oligosaccharide 3SL in milk from mothers who were physically active. 3SL offsets the effects of a high-fat diet on body composition and metabolism. It boosts baby's immune system, brain development, and supports the gut microbiome. So if you're having a baby, plan to build a daily walk into your postnatal routine. SARS-CoV-2 specific antibodies have been found in breast milk for at least 6 weeks after COVID vaccination. Israel was among the first countries to undertake a nationwide vaccination program when there was minimal information on COVID vaccination and breastfeeding. So authorities decided to recommend vaccination for breastfeeding mothers and collect data on antibodies in breast milk and to monitor infant adverse events. 84 mothers received 2 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine 3 weeks apart. IgA antibody levels increased rapidly after the first dose, and 62% of milk samples tested positive for antibodies at 2 weeks, increasing to 86% at 4 weeks. IgG antibodies increased significantly at 4 weeks, with 97% testing positive at 6 weeks. There were no adverse events in the mothers or the babies. 3 of the study families had a COVID-19 outbreak, and none of the breastfeeding babies became ill. Follow-up for most of the participants ended at 6 weeks, but some are continuing with periodic sampling to monitor antibody levels. I'm Dr. Nerida McKibben, and that's today's health news. On today's show, our guest is an international board-certified lactation consultant and mother of 3 healthy kids. Meet Teresa Yaroshevich as she explains what should happen to a baby right after birth.
So the best place for the baby after birth is coming right up to mom's skin to skin. So when the mother is lying back and just relaxing in that relaxed position and baby comes into the skin to skin position, it's really important for babies to be in that nice warm spot. And if the baby is in that body skin to skin full frontal contact on the mother's body is going to actually elevate her temperature to be just right. So the baby will be warm. The other thing that's really important about skin to skin is the mother's body starts to release those important hormones that are going to shrink down the uterus. So skin to skin contact is important for the mother and for the baby.
Right, and there's that bonding and that intimacy which releases that oxytocin, right?
Yeah, so... Yeah.
And baby's wet. None of us likes to be wet and naked, right? So having that skin to skin is very soothing for a baby.
Yes.
They'll settle down quicker, right?
Babies do settle down when they're in skin to skin. And if you think about the sensory environment that the baby has been in inside, and coming out into skin to skin, that sensory environment is going to be as similar as possible. So it's a lovely transition, and the smells are right. One of the interesting things about the nipple is that it smells like amniotic fluid. So the baby is actually guided towards the food that it needs, the very first feed, by the smell of what's been inside, and something outside smells similar. So they start to kind of navigate.
Amazing. So how soon to feed?
So within the first hour, babies typically will find the breast on their own. And one of the amazing things about skin to skin is it triggers some kinds of behaviors that are very predictable, a sequence of behaviors that actually move the baby towards food, which is a very important thing for a baby who's just been born.
We don't think about a brand new baby crawling, do we?
No, yet they do. That's such a surprise to a lot of families when they're pregnant and taking a class where they learn about the breast crawl. And
tell us about it.
There's some fantastic research about this, where the baby in that skin to skin position will begin to navigate and use some of the reflexes that the baby is born with already. And all of those reflexes, the pushing and the kicking, are actually navigating towards food, the first feed, and how to give the baby time and the space to do that. And it takes usually within that first hour that babies will typically find their way there without any help. A lot of families think they have to teach their baby how to feed, and they're quite surprised to learn baby already knows.
So true, though they're helpless in so many other ways. More about meeting baby for the first time in the next segment. Though when we come back from the break, Melinda will have a delicious, out of the ordinary dish to try, so stand by.
For all you gnocchi fans out there, I've got an amazing recipe for you today. We've got creamy asparagus gnocchi with a butterbean sauce. So when we think about a white sauce, we would generally think about lots of butter, fairly high calorie, but because we're going to be basing it on butter beans, it's going to be high protein, high fiber, but the fat's going to be way down. So still have that beautiful creamy flavor, but without the fat. So to make the white bean sauce, we put the white beans in a bowl. We add 2/3 of a cup of soy milk. Now I have tried this recipe with almond milk, with rice milk, with oat milk. It actually tastes the best with soy milk. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in some onion powder, some garlic powder, a bit of Celtic salt. And then we grab a trusty stick blender and we blend without making a mess, hopefully. I just made a mess. How much got on me? So just blend till that's nice and creamy. And we're going to set that aside while we make the asparagus. With asparagus, the best way, a friend of ours in England showed us the best way to prepare your asparagus is to actually put your two thumbs together and snap. And where you snap, that's actually the fibrous bit that isn't very tasty. So we throw that away and we keep this. When we had asparagus with him, he picked it for us. And then we just had an asparagus feast. He called it a celebration of asparagus. So all we did was we steamed the asparagus in this special little elongated saucepan. And then after that, we just grabbed some crusty bread and some olive oil and a bit of Celtic salt. And that's all we had for lunch. And it was indeed a celebration of asparagus. And we've got our fry pan nice and hot. Add some extra virgin cold pressed olive oil to our pan. And now we're going to put in leek and onion. Putting in our leek and onion. We're just going to stir that round. We're going to grate in some garlic. You can actually leave the skin on if you'd like to. It's just a quick way of doing it. And just grate it straight into the pan. The skin will naturally just stay up on top of the grater. You can just put that away there. Now what we're going to add to this is we're going to add our asparagus. Put it to the heat until it's kind of a bright green. We're going to add in some peas, just frozen peas straight out of the freezer. And the little bit of moisture that's in there will help to speed up that asparagus cooking. In a minute, we're going to add spinach. Now, spinach, any green leafy vegetable, is incredibly good for you. Really, really high in antioxidants, high in iron, and so much fibre. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that spinach in now. In on top of our asparagus and our peas. And just stir that through. And just wait for that spinach to wilt. Just want that asparagus to be nice and bright green. Just about there. Okay, now we can add our white butter bean sauce. Stir that through. Just want to heat that through. Heat the butter bean sauce through all of those beautiful green vegetables. And if you'd like to, sometimes I just add a little tiny bit more milk at this stage, just a little bit. Okay, I've got that spinach in there. We've got our white bean sauce over the top. We're just going to put the lid on just to further steam that asparagus just a tiny little bit. Okay, so our asparagus is nice and bright green. It's still a little bit crispy. It's nice to have that fresh crispness in this dish. What we're going to add now is we're going to add our gnocchi that's already been cooked. So just follow according to the packet how to make that gnocchi. You can drop that in there and mix it through. Look at that, they look so good. Okay, now to serve this, a little bit of garnish. And we're just going to, a little bit of garnish and we're done. Delicious. When I eat this, I know that the world is a better place.
That looks gorgeous. Now back to Sharon and Peter, who are running a wildly successful catering company, working all hours of the day and night. The good income gave them a good lifestyle, or was it? Watch.
It never occurred to us that our health was suffering the way we were going about it. And I think it was never occurred to us because never anything happened. You know, we never even got a cold. We were healthy people. Yeah,
we're robust characters. That treadmill of life in Sydney, it's just run by dollar signs. There's nothing more than more money is required. And how are you going to do that? You know, you're going to jump on the treadmill of life and run faster. Things started to get shaky with Peter. The last, well, not the last business, the second last business we had.
We got a few warnings, or I got a few warning shots. Was diagnosed with cancer, and then I had a stroke, and that sort of gave us a wake-up call that we had to slow down and, you know, have to look after our health a bit more before something really serious happened, if that was not serious enough, of course.
And so, yeah, when Peter got his leukemia diagnosis was the first thing that happened. We still were not really, you know, thinking this is anything that's gonna be bad for some reason. I don't know why. I think because it was kind of listed as, oh, his leukemia it's a low-grade thing, and look, it's probably just going to tinker away underneath there, and if you're going to get a cancer, it's the best one to get. All this sort of weird analogy, and so we were sort of led into a false sense of, oh, this is not that bad, you know, and he didn't have to have any treatment at that point.
Didn't feel any pain or anything.
Didn't feel anything from it.
It was there, but it didn't affect me at all.
They came across it just by accident in a blood count. And then we then decided that maybe the best thing was, Peter was getting quite stressed and heart, I would take his pulse and it'd be off the Richter scale. So he went and had lots of stress tests and heart things. And they said, you know, you're living too fast, you're going too hard, you're drinking too much alcohol, and you need to slow down. So we got Peter out of the business at that point. And then my health started to fail. You know, my classic statement, stress just bounces off me. I can do this. Yeah, this is no problem, you know. And of course it was a problem that I wasn't recognizing. So my health started to deteriorate. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, with Hashimoto's. And then that developed into a cancer for me. And I think that was last year, and that was the turning point where we just said, that's it, we've got to stop.
Sounds like a very good stopping point. Lactation consultant Teresa Yaroshevich's passion is, as she says, to give newly born mothers skilled and compassionate assistance so they can do the same for their babies. Before the break, we were discussing skin-to-skin contact with a newborn, so I asked her to show us the best position for mum and for bubs after birth.
One of the things about skin-to-skin is that usually the mother is going to be in some kind of a reclining or for that first feed. So if she is usually on the bed after giving birth and the baby is in that skin-to-skin, this is a really very stabilizing position for babies. And we know that
gravity's holding them on.
gravity is really important. We want gravity to be a friend to the mother and baby rather than something that they have to fight against. And in that skin-to-skin position, baby does have stabilizing, and usually the baby will do that kind of creeping motion with the little legs. So they're literally crawling.
What about, where do you put your arm, baby's arms?
So babies usually will have their hands, they'll kind of be moving their hands around. But sometimes there can be cases where babies' arms get put in between mother and baby. So we like to say that if you're going to give any help, just to move the baby's arms into Superman position.
Okay.
Just to kind of give the arms a chance to do what they need to do without kind of getting in the way in between mom and baby.
And that can also help stabilize the chest muscles because baby's doing a big transition to start breathing at that point.
Absolutely. And it does. It helps them to be in that stable position for the breathing and for the searching for the breast.
Because they're not going to feed if they've focused on breathing, because
that's right.
The difference between babies and adults is that they only nose breathe, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of those things work in a very interesting sequence, that the baby is adapting to outside breathing and adapting just to being in air as opposed to water. And that happens very nicely in that mother's body position.
Mm. So we have got baby skin to skin. How soon can we dress baby or put some wraps on? How long do we want to leave baby skin to skin?
So they typically will want baby to be just skin to skin and doing the breast crawl for that first hour. And a lot of the things that need to happen for baby can actually be done on mother's body, which is quite nice, just to have, if they're needing to check the baby or look at anything. And having baby for a nice hour. But the thing about skin to skin is eventually a new family will put a nappy on, but wanting to put clothes on, I think, is something that we can really safely delay for quite a long time, because that skin to skin is important, especially during the first days and weeks of the baby's life. So having less clothing and more skin contact is beneficial for both baby and mom for a lot of reasons.
Where does dad come in here?
So dad is also going to be part of that skin-to-skin process. So it's really important that, of course, mother is going to be needing breaks to eat or to get up and maybe take a shower or do other things. And dads are going to be a really important part of that bonding too.
So we have moms that have a cesarean section and they can't, and they're asleep. So our babies go straight to dad for skin to skin.
Perfect. That's a perfect place.
And dads actually love that, but that's a new concept. It's not always been around, right?
Oh, I just love it. I love to hear dads describe their first experience of touching their baby that way, and having that experience of, take the shirt right off, get into that skin to skin for dad. And you can see the fathers just, they get that sense of euphoria that women have after birth as well, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful way to start a family.
Isn't it? Yeah. Now, often babies will feed a lot that first night, those first few days. What's your advice to mums?
So again, the skin to skin is really helpful for that, and letting babies do that, working to get towards the breast, giving them that time, because the crawling is actually helpful as the baby is doing that movements of the hands. It massages the mother's chest, and that helps to bring the milk in. So it's a good a way to keep the milk supply coming in, because we know that babies are eating colostrum in the very first few days, that first milk. And it's small amounts, but it's just right for the baby's small tummy. So the very small stomach needs to be refilled very often, because it digests quickly and it needs a refill.
How much? How big is that newborn stomach?
Just like the size of a cherry. It's very, very tiny. So it's just going to be maybe 7 mils or 10 mils that it fills that baby right up. They digest it and they need to have another refill. So coming to the breast frequently is very helpful.
And how long a feed will it take to fill that stomach? How many minutes
for babies. Depends for babies. And it depends, mothers are very different as well. Some mothers produce quite a lot of colostrum and some less. If you're making a little bit less colostrum, feeding more frequently and letting the baby have that time will fill the tummy eventually. So it's got a lot of variation for timing, depending on a lot of different factors. But watching the baby and seeing how the baby is reacting to that, and maybe baby will stay on for one side for a bit and then want to come off and rest, and then they'll kind of wiggle around to the other side, so you don't want to switch sides.
Lots more good advice coming later in the show. After the break, I'll be back to answer your questions, so stick around. Now it's time to take on some of your questions. Someone asked, I am hypothyroid on thyroxine, but I don't have any symptoms. Can I ever get off the meds? Well, if you don't have symptoms with it, then you have a condition called subclinical hypothyroidism. In other words, the diagnosis was made because you happened to have a test that showed you had normal thyroxine levels but elevated TSH. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, which is made by the pituitary gland in the brain to control how much thyroxine is made by the thyroid gland near your throat. Starting thyroid replacement or thyroxine is recommended when the TSH is greater than 10. But it's controversial if it's between 5 to 10, whether you actually need it. So the strongest arguments for starting thyroxine is that there's a high risk of progressing to symptomatic hypothyroidism. So in other words, it will slowly get worse. Also, some people notice a better quality of life when they start the thyroxine, and there's possibly a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, especially in those under 70 with subclinical hypothyroidism. So having said all that, there is a small chance that the TSH will improve on its own. If you stop the medication, you could watch and see that. So ask your doctor, what was your TSH before you started the thyroxine? And if you decide to stop, be sure to have thyroid and lipid bloods every year and watch for symptoms of being hypothyroid. Carolyn asks, my heart skips a beat, what might be causing it, and is there anything other than medication that can help? Well, skip beats are often what's called ventricular ectopic beats. They're not always. Most of us experience them, especially when we're stressed. They're random, they're inconsequential. However, there are also more worrying cardiac arrhythmias that do need to be investigated, especially if they're associated with chest pain, shortness of breath, or dizziness. So talk to your doctor about them. Someone else asked, what are polyps and why is it important to remove them and take biopsies during a colonoscopy? So I presume you're talking about polyps in the bowel. So polyps are an overgrowth of the internal lining of the bowel. Most are harmless, but after 7 to 10 years of staying in the bowel, they can develop into colon cancer. So basically, whenever they're seen at colonoscopy, they are removed, and you'll then be advised that you should have a colonoscopy every 5 years, just in case you grow more, so they can be removed before they develop into a cancer. If none are seen, you'll be advised to have a colonoscopy every 10 years after the age of 50. Thanks for those questions. If you have a question for me, then send it using the contact details on the screen. Now let's head outdoors to see what's on offer at the fruit and veggie stand. The kiwi fruit was originally called a Chinese gooseberry because it tasted like a gooseberry but was native to China, where it was cultivated in the 12th century for medicine. Fast forward 800 years and it was introduced into New Zealand, where the first commercial orchards were established. It became popular with the troops during World War II, and in 1962 growers began calling it kiwi fruit, and the name stuck and became official in 1974. Green kiwi fruit have fuzzy skin and are eaten without the skin. They are higher in fibre and lower in sugar than the gold variety with its smooth skin. The green fruit have more beta-carotene, lutein and zeaxanthines, which are good for the eyes. But the gold have more vitamin C, though both are rich in vitamin C. The flesh of the kiwi fruit contains an enzyme called actinidine, which is used commercially as a meat tenderizer and digestive aid. It also digests proteins and gelatin, making jelly turn liquid. They look attractive in desserts, on platters and salads, and mostly are eaten raw by simply cutting in half and scooping out with a spoon. Bon appétit! We're talking today with Teresa Jaroszewicz, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. Earlier in the show, she shared how best to settle a brand new baby. I asked her which position is best.
So that idea that we've used for that recline positioning for the first day is something that you're going to be using for a lot of the first weeks. And we've had a lot of years of teaching women to sit up for breastfeeding. And that again makes gravity against baby, and mother has to always be lifting. So there can be a lot of stress on the mother's body, and just leaning back a little bit does a lot with gravity and letting baby kind of start in the middle and start to look again, arms in Superman position, legs nice and froggy, spread froggy legs, and nice close contact, and the baby starts to look for the breast. So one of the things that is important about that search is the baby is actually opening the mouth and searching with the mouth. And by doing that, babies will open more widely than if we just simply put them next to the nipple.
And why do we want them to be wide open?
So the wide open mouth is a really important thing for getting a deep and comfortable latch. And that's important for the mother to be comfortable, and it's important for the baby to actually transfer milk from the mother into the baby's tummy. So it helps baby and mom be comfortable and get lots and lots of milk in.
So are there any alternate positions for holding a baby?
So babies can be in a lot of positions. Once mom is reclined, you have a lot of options. So having the baby in different positions, trying different things to find what's comfortable for that mother and that baby. It's really, really important. There are some positions that you can see in books and you can see recommended that the babies tend to struggle a bit more with, but there can be some, situations where that may be useful. But trying to stick with a little bit of recline is really helpful rather than sitting up. So then you've got some positioning options.
And we put babies down and they cry. Should we leave them there? Should we pick them up, nurse them again? What's the best thing to do?
Yeah, babies are very, very clear in their communication about what they like and what they don't like. So if you are finding that baby is not happy being put down, there's a really, really important reason for that. Babies are very much wired to look for contact. And that contact is because that's the source of food, that's the source of comfort, and that's really all that they know. So being put down, we can say very confidently that this baby is in, beautiful, safe New Zealand, and we know there are no wolves that are going to come, there are no tigers, but the baby doesn't know that. And there's a lot of fear that babies feel of, I don't know where my family is. I want to be back with the people that take care of me. And it's really a lovely, spinning it in that way rather than my baby is demanding to be picked up, of just understanding this is a very new little person who needs a lot of support and reassurance that this is a safe place and you're okay.
So you say pick baby up when baby cries?
Yeah, and have them close and give them...
But not necessarily feed them again.
You can try. Sometimes baby will want to go back to the breast just to calm down after having a fright. And that breast milk and that swallowing and sucking can be soothing and comforting. So I think that one of the ideas that I encourage families to look at is not think of being at the breast as feeding. Being at the breast is a lot more than calories. And I like to tell mothers that you're not a calorie delivery device. You are a mother, you are a parent, and a lot of the things that parents do can happen at the breast. So babies will be comforted there. They'll get some calories, but they'll also calm down and just have that sense of safety. It's also a pain relief. So if they just have some tummy problem, suckling will actually relieve that.
Such a special relationship between parents and their baby. Now consider this. One day, a poor woman with an incurable disease sought desperately to find Jesus. Suddenly, he was right there, walking towards her in the middle of a large crowd. Fearing she might miss her only opportunity, she pressed forward, summoning all of her faith. She reached out and just managed to touch the edge of his clothes. Knowing she'd be healed, she stopped and waited for the crowd to pass on. But Jesus stopped too. He asked, "Who touched me?" Despite the jostling crowd, he had felt that healing had gone out of him, and he wanted to encourage the person who'd just been healed. "Daughter, be of good comfort," he told her. "Your faith has made you whole. Go in peace." A touch was all it took. And there's a unique exchange too in the skin-to-skin contact between a baby and its parents. I think back to when Adam and Eve were born. God didn't just speak them into existence. He used his divine touch to form them skin-to-skin contact even at creation.
The battle of the bulge happens for many of us when we try to shed extra pounds. One way to win is to adopt a total vegetarian or vegan diet. A recent Adventist health study found that the more closely a person consumed a total vegetarian diet, the closer they were to their ideal weight. So each step you take towards a total vegetarian diet will give you an advantage in the battle. A total vegetarian diet is another ageless advantage.
Now we're back with today's guest, lactation consultant and mother, Teresa Jaroszewicz. I asked her to describe the importance of touch to a baby.
Touch is what they like to say is the mother of all senses. So touch is one of the most important senses for an infant. And the way that touch is wired with the infant's brain is that the more touch that a baby gets, especially in the early years, the more wired the brain is for calmness and for relaxation. And it's a really great way for babies to learn, like, I have a tiny bit of stress where I was upset about something, and then I come into one of my parents is going to calm me and make me feel right again. And that feeling of kind of coming back to that set point after a little bit of stress is actually good for a baby to build that resilience. And that's for the brain to make those connections in the brain for calmness and comfort. And that gives a lot of sense of security for babies. And also it helps them as they're growing older.
So you're saying more touch is there becomes more wiring in the brain.
That's right.
Better connections between different parts of the brain. So you're actually building a baby's brain simply by touching, holding, hugging.
And it's actually so easy. It's like, it's beautifully simple. It's a very beautiful, elegant design that just the act of taking care of your child and doing something that you quite naturally want to do. And this is, all caregivers will do this. The grandparents, the dads, if you hear a child crying of any age, you kind of want to gather them and kind of just hold them close and let them know it's okay. And that's something that for many years, we are told not to do that and to resist that. But that's something that is actually built into us.
So what about postnatal depression? This can be a real barrier. Like it can really break that touching and bonding process.
Yes, that's really, it's very common. There's such a high percentage of women. And actually, dads will also have some experience of some depression as well in those early months. That happens as well.
We often see that.
But it does happen more often with women, we know. And having a high touch environment is also a protective mechanism for reducing a mother's risk of depression. And that's a very interesting phenomenon because we think that taking care of an infant is a lot of work, and it is. But the thing that's built also into that perfect design is that keeping babies close is actually protecting the mother's mental health.
So if you start to feel like you're dropping into the pit, as I call it, then reach out to your baby, and that will be part of your therapy.
Give some cuddles.
Not totally, but be part of your therapy.
Be with your baby and kind of holding the baby in. And again, it's releasing those hormones of happiness in that skin to skin can actually be very helpful at that stage too. And having that contact will help mothers to kind of reset some of those hormones that are just not quite right at that stage.
How do you advise dads, extended family, when mum has postnatal depression?
Yeah, just give her a lot of support and encouragement. And, the practical things like holding the baby so that she can go and have a break, maybe have a nap, have a shower by herself, just kind of having a bit of space, that can be quite helpful. But having that as kind of a temporary idea is that we don't want to take babies away from mothers to give them like long bouts of rest. Like having support with the mom
And the baby
together and bringing things to her and supporting her to do that. And when baby doesn't have clothes on, mothers will actually very intuitively start stroking. And if you've ever touched a newborn, you know that that's the softest thing in the entire world.
Yes, it is.
And touching that baby's skin can actually release more of those happy hormones.
To combat the sad hormones.
Yeah. So use what nature already gave us.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
That how that synchrony exists.
Beautifully designed.
Beautiful indeed. Finally, back to Sharon and Peter. They had a successful catering business in the heart of Sydney, Australia, with a good income, but ended up working day and night. Then Peter got leukemia, only low grade, no treatment needed, kept it at bay till he had a stroke. Sharon continued the business on her own till she got the cancer diagnosis too. It was time for a big change. Watch.
I think that Patrick, our oldest son, actually said once to me quite a few years ago, when Peter had stopped working and I was pushing really hard to maintain. Peter had already had a stroke, and Patrick said to me, "Mum, you need to take a break and go for walks and do some other stuff." And I said, "I don't have time for it, Pat. I just don't have time." And he said, a guy came to talk at our school just recently, and he gave me a quote, and he said, "It really fits you." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "If you don't have time for your health right now, make sure you have time for your sickness later on." And I was in the kitchen, I remember thinking, big statement, and it hurt because I knew it was me. I looked up a health retreat that was going to be something that wasn't too pretentious, that was small, that was close to Sydney, and I found Cedarvale, which was the beginning of the changes that we needed to make.
Beginning of the turnaround, really.
The beginning of the turnaround.
I was pre-diabetic
Yeah.
for a long time, and that all went back to normal. When we came back from Cedarville,
His cholesterol.
You have to remember, it was 12 days we were there. It's not like I was there for 12 months. So in a short time, I had a lot of changes. So I gave up my tablets for the pre-diabetic. I cut down on hard tablets for my heart. Cholesterol tablets. Oh, we have to say we felt better too after the 12 days.
Of course. Oh, yeah.
A change of lifestyle, a change of diet.
Yeah.
And we felt really good. We lost a bit of weight, which was, not enormous, but was a beginning. We started doing a bit of exercise. I mean, just, small walks. Because we had to start easy because we never done any exercise, so to speak. And we really loved it, going for walks, being out in nature, and it's a beautiful spot.
It's the nature thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful there in the woods there. And we now go for walks in the morning with him, and we go in the afternoon, and we feel good about it. No money in the world will compensate for your health. So you have to be realistic about it, what's achievable without hurting yourself and what is not. And that's something very important to think about before you do those steps in that direction.
So are you hurting yourself or going in the right direction? And if you're planning a family, get lactation support for you and your newborn. If at all possible, have skin-to-skin contact from birth because it's great for both mother and baby. It soothes and calms baby, keeps them warm, stabilizes breathing, enables them to feed when they're ready, and encourages mama's milk supply. And remember that through touch, God gave us one amazing gift. So use it all you can. That's all from me today. Thanks for joining us on Go Healthy for Good. I'll see you next time.